Hitler, for example, is a word you should never say. Instead you should say the Austrian painter. Quite an insult to other Austrian painters to make him the definitive article. From that famous euphemism, you could conclude that perhaps people don't really know that many Austrian artists in the first place, even though of course there are plenty. Like Italy, for example, is a whole bunch of artists who are pretty much household names, but that might also largely be because of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Chances are you have never heard of Gabriel Von Max, and that's okay, you don't have to know everything. He made this fascinating work called Monkeys as Art Critics. The use of color is rather limited. While I can see and appreciate that Von Max has used a wide variety of shades of brown, I think this painting might have looked more appealing if there were like a few splashes of color. If a necromancer were to resurrect Von Max from the dead, I would advise him to remake this painting with a more interesting mix of monkeys. Like for example squirrel monkeys, skull monkeys as I like to call them, are like yellowish. And I think little splashes of color like that would do this painting good. Doesn't have to be skull monkeys, there are tons of interestingly colored monkeys. Maybe give one of them a piece of fruit to eat as well. I think there's a lot you can do. The background is also being brown, which is fair because you want your background to be, well, a background, but because the foreground is also brown, things will start to blend. Over here, it almost looks like this monkey has a weird elongated head. Perhaps it would have been better if the background were to have been basically black in its entirety, though I don't like that either. Nevertheless, this is one of history's greatest paintings. There are many paintings of monkeys, but what is relatively unique about this one, quite a few of them are making strange facial expressions that only monkeys make. Many painters of monkeys have a tendency to either almost exclusively paint them with neutral expressions or with more anthropomorphic expressions. These are very simious simians. You can really tell that the artist knows his monkeys. As you may have already guessed, he actually kept monkeys as pets. And that is of course something that we tend to have opinions about today. If you want a pet monkey, you have to take it away from its parents when it's still a baby. And that's indeed not right. You have to see this in the context of the time, however. And remember that it is inevitable that thoughts about pet ownership will continue to evolve. I think in the future people would say, for example, that it is appalling that people of this era would keep pets without a pet diploma. When I look at not just this painting but also Von Max's other monkey paintings, I do see someone who seriously loves monkeys. And I think you should keep that in mind before you judge him for doing something that wasn't controversial in his time. That he loves monkeys should also be considered when we interpret this painting. Without that paratext, it could easily be misinterpreted as an insult in the direction of art critics. Many people have a low view of monkeys. But if an insult isn't what it is, what is it? Is he honoring the critics? Perhaps, but let's not assume it to be a valid judgment at all in the first place. Be it insult, honor, or neutral observation, it does seem that Von Max is insisting that monkeys and art critics are alike in some sense. He is familiar with both, so he would know. We are not shown the painting that they are looking at. If it is a Von Max painting, it might be another monkey painting. Perhaps the monkeys are fascinated by their own likeness. But apparently, I can't make it out personally, but luckily I believe what I read online, it says Tristan and Isolde on the back. So apparently it depicts this famous story. This is important. If it was a monkey painting that they were looking at, he was depicting critics who understood the object of their curiosity. However, since it is Tristan and Isolde, a human legend that a monkey has no way of being familiar with, there is no way under heaven that the monkeys will understand what is being depicted. The critics that are being depicted are critics who do not have the right background to understand the paintings that they are looking at. For example, these monkeys may represent the critics who are insulted by being depicted as monkeys. They are not familiar with this artist and wrongfully assume that Von Max shares the commonly held low view of monkeys. And as a result, they arrive at a fairly understandable but wrong conclusion. I think this is a helpful way for an artist to think about critics who do not understand your work. An unhealthy way to deal with it would be to take it personally. But then you're not being fair to not only to yourself but also your critic. The monkeys are not at fault for not understanding Tristan and Isolde. And human critics are the same. Humans all come from different walks of life and as a result see the world in completely different ways. The complexity of the human condition makes it so that many artworks will inevitably be as alien to us as Tristan and Isolde is to the art critic Monkey. It is worth being aware of that, as a critic and as an artist. The critic mustn't presume that he understood, and the artist mustn't presume that he is going to be understood. There's another layer. Not only do the monkeys represent the critic who doesn't understand, they also can be understood to represent the critic who doesn't speak. Of course, there are many outspoken critics. You have, for example, YouTubers who talk about how shit everything is. It is a popular genre. This is maybe the type of thing you think of most when you think of the critic. But fundamentally, everyone is a critic. We all engage with what we see, we all interpret what we see, and we even have opinions about it. Most people, however, like the monkeys, do not share with the artist what they have taken from it. The human critic is often just as mute as the monkey critic. Von Max also made this painting of a monkey and a skull. It's like a memento mori type thing, or at least it seems to be. We don't know if monkeys reflect on death. It makes sense that they would reflect on death, as surely they are intelligent enough, but since monkeys do not speak, we speculate. So too with the art critics. The monkeys, while they can't possibly be expected to know the story of Tristan and Isolde, might understand, for example, as they are social animals who are in contact with humans, that a romantic scene is being depicted. But how far this understanding may go, it is again something that we are left to speculate about. So too with human art critics. The average Joe who is visiting the museum, or to make the Joe even more average, who is watching a movie, is never going to reveal to the artist what meaning they derived from it. The final stage of an art piece is its reception, and this is a mysterious and chaotic process. People will hallucinate all kinds of personal meaning into an artwork, like I am doing currently. And the artist will often never know. And these various understandings will inevitably be off from what the artist intended. This is a neutral observation. It is not wrong to hallucinate your own meaning into something, because there is nothing else we can do. But I do think it is good to be aware that art criticism is inherently a personal, hallucinatory endeavor. Art criticism often ends up having more to do with us than with the artwork. We are monkeys looking at Tristan and Isolde. Maybe. In any case, Von Max, with monkeys as art critics, makes us think about monkeys and about art critics.